Hello, filmmakers. Welcome back to episode 5 of FNI Rap Chat.
Yeah, so this is the podcast about and for Irish filmmakers, interviewing different kind of filmmakers, people working in the industry every weekend. So yeah, it's been going well for us. We hope you've been enjoying it and finding it useful. If you have any suggestions for people that we should talk to, just send us an email, fnirapchat@gmail, or get on to the Facebook group, or you can also get onto Twitter. What's the Twitter?
Yeah, our Twitter handle is FNI_film, and you can also find us on Instagram for regular updates of our events and workshops, seminars and so on that's coming up.
Yeah, we're very exciting. We're getting ready to go to Kerry for the Kerry Film Festival in Killarney. If you are going to be down there Saturday the 20th?
The 24th. So we're down on tomorrow. So we'll be there from around lunchtime. We'll be doing our own podcast, Rap Chat. If you've heard of it, I believe it's very good. So yeah, we'll be doing a special podcast down there, live from Kerry, live. And then afterwards we'll be running a speed networking film event where people can come and get absolutely smashed with filmmaking business cards and also alcohol. So yeah, please, if you're around, pop in. It's on at 6 o'clock in, where is it on? It's on in Scott's Hotel at 6 p.m. Try and get there sharp though, because we've a good hour and a half there, but it's wedged between screenings and events. So if you come down and say hello and shake our hands and press some flesh.
Yeah, so our guest today is John Connors, filmmaker, actor, producer, writer, activist, documentarian, all those things. Really good conversation, quite inspirational about how he got into film and all the different projects that he's going on. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah, it was a really good one. So yeah, without any further ado, or what is it? Further
Ado.
John Connors, enjoy. Back to another episode of the Rappy Chatty with the two Pauls. We're very lucky. We're joined today by writer. Am I right in saying writer, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, John's a writer and he's an actor, and you may know him from some really interesting work he's been making over the last couple of years, and such as Love, Hate, and his latest feature, Cardboard Bankers.
Gangsters.
Cardboard Gangsters with Mark O'Connor, and is obviously a slew of really interesting shorts and just really important work over the last couple of years. So we're really grateful that you took the time out to come along. So thanks a million for coming along. It's great to see you.
Good to see you too.
So yeah.
Maybe you could just tell us about, I guess, growing up, did you always have a love of film, and was it something that you thought you might end up doing at some point, or was it a surprise?
I was obsessed with film.
Yeah.
Never obsessed with being an actor or anything, or getting into it's kind of be hard to even describe how unrealistic that sounds. You know, I want to be an actor, or I want to be involved in film as a traveller, a young traveller, growing up, right? Like it's literally like saying I want to go to the moon. It's like saying that.
Right.
So I never even thought of it because it's so unrealistic. Like I'd never ever thought of being an actor. Just love films. And then I remember my brother Joe. I was battling depression. Not just you're always shy talking about these things, but I was battling depression, and I was going to the point where I was going really, really bad, and I wasn't speaking to anybody, and I was just I just felt like I was in a cave and I couldn't get out. My brother Joe reached out to me and said, "Look, I know you're depressed, and I know there's something wrong with you. You have to do something about it, And I kind of put all my eggs in one basket, wanting to be a boxer for years and a professional boxer. I was actually offered to go pro, but I lost my discipline and I couldn't do it. I just gained loads of weight and just lost the love of boxing,
Yeah.
And my brother Joe said, look, you need to do something else. You need to find something else. You've always loved film. And he said, why don't you try acting? So it was just like a light bulb moment for me, because a few years previously I tried a bit of acting in a false course and I loved it. But I wouldn't even try to be an actor because I was too kind of ashamed and too kind of worried about what other people would think and what other travellers would think, you know.
Yeah.
So then we Googled acting class in Dublin on my brother Joe's laptop. And I rang up the Abbey School and I just said, look, I'm looking for a course to do. I've never acted before. And besides the tiny bit in Falls for a week or two, Kathleen Warner-Yates, who's the head of the Abbey over there, she said, well, there's acting for fun, you know, and the kind of depressed nature, you know, mood I was in, I out of fun just was like, please kill me. So I says, anything more intense, you know, I was looking for therapy because I didn't have the courage to go to therapy, and she said there's a scene study course, but look, they're all professional actors, and I said, look, I'll do it anyway, you know, acting fearless. And I went, I think I gave me last €295 for the course, or got into a tenner off it for the bus, I think. And I went in and I did the class, and I sat down for the first night, and we were all sitting around in a circle, and everybody was like, well, you know, I did 2 years in Gaiety and I did 3 years here, and I was like, fuck, I'm fucked here now. And they came around to me, but I was like, I've never acted before, and they were all kind of little giggles and whatever, and I said, how do we get out of here? And I literally decided in that moment, the next opportunity I have to leave the room, I'm going to go, because I was embarrassed.
Right.
And then they did an improv where it was a shopkeeper customer, and the customer walks through the door, and whatever the customer says, the shopkeeper has to go along with. So the customer dictates the scene. And the customer was this Dublin lad, let's just say he was from, you know, an affluent background. And the other lad was from Brazil, and he was a black man, you know, a man of colour. And the Dublin lad came in and was like, you know, I'm looking for like vanilla protein and, you know, doing all this, whatever. But he ends up kind of, to me, was at minimum patronising to the Brazilian man, but even it was kind of racial undertones, you know. And depression and anger are very linked, you know, very together linked. They're like cousins. And I just remember fantasising about throwing him out the second floor window, because I know what racism's like, you know. I got on my life badly, you know. Yeah. So I related immediately to the Brazilian man. And then the scene ended, and the Dublin fella became the shopkeeper, and he looked for a volunteer to do the customer. So I volunteered. But when you volunteer, you have to go outside the door. So when I went outside the door, it was like a dilemma. Will I go now? This is my opportunity to go. Yeah. But anger superseded that. So I opened up the door, I ran in, and I robbed the place. And he had to go along with it. So I took off his shoes, took off his trousers, slapped him, choked him. And so it was like a mad rough sex porn or something like that.
Give me that vanilla protein, that's mine.
The teacher came in and she was like roaring to stop, you know. And I says, oh, sorry. So I ran out downstairs and down 2 or 3 stairs, and she was roaring after me, John, come back. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm going. And she was like, please come back, please. And she said, look, don't do that again. Please don't put your hands on anybody. But there was something there, let's harness that. And I ended up kind of I walked out of the acting class that night. I was walking down Lower Abbey Street, and everybody was just looking at me on the street, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? It's because my smile looked so weird, because I hadn't smiled in about 2 years. Right. I was like a Joker smile face to face. Yeah. And that was it then. Like, I just went every week and started reading up books and Meisner and Strasbourg and this kind of thing, and kind of got obsessed with it, to be honest. It was something that I was able to latch onto. Okay. And kind of forget about all the dark shit, you know. Right. It brought me, it opened a new world I never knew existed. I was like, what the fuck is this place? Yeah. This is beautiful, you know. Yeah.
Wow. And what was the first kind of thing that you started making or being on screen, or were you thinking about writing at that point?
The first acting class I done, I thought about writing. I thought about Carbon Gangsters. Right. As an idea, you know. Yeah. But I think I did about 6 months of acting classes, and I was up in my boxing club, and this woman came up, a casting director, and she was looking for tough-looking guys for Love Hate as extras. And I went, look, Jerry, me trainer now, was doing acting classes, and Joe, and he suggested me, and I said, I wouldn't bother doing an extra, but then she was seeing that I was kind of keen and whatever. Said, well, look, there's a role here, it's like a special extra, you get a couple of lines. And I went, oh, okay, all right, well, that's interesting. So she put my name down, and was waiting on the call or whatever, and then in the meantime I heard of this film that was getting cast, The King of the Travellers, and they wanted real travellers or whatever, and I was asking one of my friends who was in the club who was casting in the lead of it to get me in, you know, to get me in and give me an audition. And he was kind of wouldn't help me to get an audition, you know. But I ended up getting an audition separately. And I remember Mark tells the story, I was outside an hour before the auditions because they're so keen, you know. And I went in there and I was with loads of travelers and none of them ever acted. And Mark says, we're going to do a bit of improv. And they're all like, what do you mean improv? What's improv? And I said, I know what improv is. So I ended up doing an improv with Mike Collins. And quite frankly, I thought I nailed it. I said, I'm part of that. But anyway, Mark never got back to me for like 6 weeks, you know. But he ended up writing the part into the script for me.
Okay.
But then we did like 2 months of rehearsals, and the lead, who was a friend of mine who couldn't get me in, but a friend of mine since kids, he got sacked and I got the lead.
No way.
And then just before that, that's when I shot. The first thing I ever done was with Love Hate. And it was a scene with Nidge. And it was just making him the pipe bomb, basically.
Yeah.
And then after that, like, when Love Hate came back around, I just seen Stuart Carlin and the Galway Film Flat. He wanted to bring me back. And he was like, I don't know how to bring you back. But I was there looking at him all the time as to how to bring me back.
Yeah.
But he says, I want to bring you back. And then I ended up being that whole storyline, you know.
Okay. And did he kind of involve you in the story, in the writing of it?
Oh, yeah. Like, I was every day, like, I didn't write it, you know. I was just giving them everything I could.
Right.
You know, because he wanted to nail the culture and he wanted to know, like, how drivers would speak when they're around alone by themselves and no settled people in it. How do you speak? What sort of words do you use? And we even got to use a bit of the gammon in our language as well, you know.
Right,
one of the things was, and Stuart was so clever in the way he used it with a couple of words here and there.
Yeah.
Like, there's a word innick, which can mean many different things, depending on its usage in the context. Yeah. And in one scene, I said to my brother to get this fiend here in Innick, and it's obvious it's a gun because Fran just asked for a gun. Okay. Do you know what I mean? So I used it that way, and it ended up being like a hashtag, get this fiend in Innick. Right. You know what I mean? So very cleverly used it. He's a very smart man, Stuart, you know?
Yeah, it's a real sign of a smart writer.
Yeah, he knows how to use that kind of the authenticity and, you know, bring it out. Brilliant.
He's a sponge, essentially. Yeah. Pick up everything around him and work it out in some way. And ask lots of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So how did you first come across Mark O'Connor?
Well, that was Mark ended up walking into the building. I was outside waiting with my hands in my pocket. I was just seeing Mark, and Mark seeing me. We kind of gave each other a look, and then I remember him looking out the second floor building, and he was looking down on me, and I was outside the button factory. It was in the film base. And I was looking up at him, and he later on says, I knew you were coming for the audition. I said, it was the big traveller ahead of me. And then that's it, we met in that room then, and we hit it off because he's O'Connor and I'm Connor. It was essentially the same name, you know, just different abbreviations. And we kind of we know our history a bit, we know our horror history, you know. Yeah, yeah. And that's a kind of another connection. Every time we get drunk, we say we go back many years. Yeah. That was the first meeting, yeah.
And you've made 3 films together now, is that right?
Yeah, because then, on the set of King of the Shamblers, I was telling Mark about a play I was writing about mental illness and about schizophrenia. And it was essentially about my father, you know, who was the one who got me into films, you know. Right. He was obsessed with films and he had an encyclopedia knowledge of films, and he was a great impressionist. Yeah. And when he'd go on the kind of mental episodes, he'd do impressions of people like Bruce Lee and whatever and all that kind of stuff, you know. Yeah. And then I was telling Mark about that. He said, that's really interesting. And Mark was saying, I know this fella, like, who lives in Ranelagh, he's a bit of a stalker, a bit of a weirdo, like, but he's harmless. But then we kind of combined both stories. We said, Mark talked about doing something like for no budget, you know, with no restrictions, just freedom, you know. Yeah. And I said, look, I'm all over it, let's do it. So I met him, I would say about 3 weeks after King of the Shamblers, and we met down in Sandy Cove. I think we wrote about 40 pages in 2 or 3 hours of the script, and just wrote itself. Right. And even like little things happening, like we were in the cafe writing, and that famous fucking Christmas song. Oh, it's a fucking hymn or a fucking what the fuck?
What the fuck? The famous Christmas.
Oh, it's really bastard. Hangover, damn hangover. Anyway, even when we were writing it, we knew that was good. That was on the cafe, and we used that in the end and all. And it was
everything around you.
Everything just happened.
Walking its way into.
So we decided to do it as an experiment. So write it really quick, and then shoot it really quick, and have it funded by all online donations. So we ended up being the first crowdfunded film ever in Ireland. Right. Yeah. And then also post-production, do it all experimental herself the whole way and distributed the whole way herself,
Yeah.
And it did really well. Like, critically, we did
And
great.
that was Stalker. Right?
Stalker, yeah. And
That's the one with Barry Keoghan as well.
Barry Keoghan, yeah. That was his first role.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, that was his first real role. Like, he did King of Travers and Between the Canals, but it was only little roles Mark gave him, and we decided to give him a big role because we could both see he was very keen and there was something about him, And I said, I'm telling you, this fella has it. So me and Mark kind of wrote a part that was sort of loosely kind of inspired by Barry's own life, and I don't want to get too much into his family life because it's none of my business, but he had a rough old upbringing,
Right.
So it's kind of, we wrote it kind of around him, and it was a lot of personal stuff from him that he could easily relate to.
Right.
What was it like working with him?
Oh, great. Like, he was a little bollocks, to be honest with you, at times, to be honest with you. If I'm going to be honest. But, like, I tell Barry that to his face, and, me and Barry get on great, but, like, there was a scene, I remember, we were meant to be fucking, he was meant to smoke in the scene, and he wouldn't smoke, like, no, I'm not smoking.
No.
I'm not smoking. It's like, even don't inhale it, like, just, no. It's all right, okay, fine. And then, like, another one where, like, I think we were meant to be doing the lines, and he didn't do the lines. He was still improvising, which I love doing. But let me know if we're improvising or not.
Yeah.
And then also, like, then he was just like started ignoring me in scenes, and he was doing the lines or improvising, started ignoring me. But then you look back, and it's fucking genius.
Yeah.
It's all this behavioural shit. And I was like, why is he fucking ignoring me? I was saying to Mark, which kind of gave me an acting lesson as well in it. But whatever it is about Barry, he just has this natural thing, man. Where he's just there immediately, like he's just there.
Right.
That's it. You know what I mean? There's no,
Yeah.
But he's no, and it's like he just feels his way through a scene. It's great.
And would you think, is there a danger with acting classes that certain actors could lose that sheen if you try and polish it or anything like that?
I think it's up to yourself, really. I think it's really that goes down to an individual.
Yeah.
I would say it for me,
Yeah. Right.
But then I look at someone like Tom Von Lawler, who's trained to the hilt, and the man's a demon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're in the same that man, and it's freaky.
Right.
I mean, the first time doing scenes, and I was like, who is this energy in front of me? You know what I mean? Because it wasn't Tom Von Lawler.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It was Nidge.
Yeah.
So it works for him.
Yeah.
So it depends, man. It depends. I think you need to see what works for yourself. I'm not giving out any advice like that.
Yeah.
Fucking, I did acting classes and just a 1 day a week thing, and I did different courses. And what I loved about that was every course was different people. So you got to just interact with different people, and I learned more from meeting new people all the time, doing scenes with new people rather than the same people maybe for 2 or 3 years in a college. Maybe wouldn't have suited me, but maybe just because I've no kind of tolerance for boredom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So basically.
And what do you really like in a director, or what do you admire in a director?
Like I remember I got on set one time. This fella's a fucking cunt. Like, he was just trying to construct your performance,
Right.
and like, it was hard not to rip his head off.
Right.
And I'm not one, and you might be getting the wrong impression there, because I'm not one to argue with directors and all like that.
No.
And I've never really done it, to be honest with you. But this fella was just so out on the ledge.
Right.
And he was going over, I want you to say it like this, and maybe say it like that, and then think about this and that. Get the fuck.
Yeah,
I ended up saying to him, I said, listen, don't tell me how to act, and I won't tell you how to direct.
Yeah,
You're literally, well, I don't want to give it away. I want to say the cunt's name now. But this fella had only previously worked with students.
Okay.
In his own class, and they were acting in his film. Okay, and they were all fucking shit, obviously.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he felt he had to do that.
Yeah.
And I wasn't doing it. It was another kind of big name was on the project as well, and he tore me a new asshole. He went next level, but he did it in front of everybody. At least I pulled him aside,
Right.
But just trying to construct and getting away constantly and stopping the flow of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because also he has his own image and vision himself, and it has to be exactly like that.
Yeah.
But art isn't like that.
Yeah.
It isn't like that. You have to be open to change and move around.
Yeah, not everybody can be a Stanley Kubrick.
Not at all.
It can't be word for word.
So to go back to what a good director does, a good director does is make you feel like you own the character. You own it. You own it, because you do. You own the character. I'm only here to help you, and goes in, and maybe when you're stuck and you can't break a barrier, they'll say something that'll spark on something clever. They go back to the script, because a good director knows the script even better than the actor. You know what I mean? And give you a little thing, or give you a hint of something, or even when something's not working for both of you, even maybe give you a different motivation even.
Yeah.
But think about, what about when he looked at her, instead of looking at her like he's in love, he's looking at her like he wants to rape her.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
One director said that to me literally.
Right.
I don't want to say it, but it was a different.
Wasn't
I was
Harvey
like, wow.
Weinstein, was it?
No, but it was a film all about sexual and all, and all stuff, whatever. So little things like that come over and save you.
And
Come over
ask questions. Ask you questions.
And ask you a question exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think about this?
Yeah.
And then he'll question, why do you think that?
Right.
That's interesting. And then you're thinking about it yourself,
Yeah.
And then again, just remind the most simplest thing ever.
Yeah.
When young fellas and all ask me about acting and all, I go, when you go on a set, right, the hardest thing I learned that I looked back on was looking at your performance that wasn't in continuity with each other, because you could be shooting the last scene of the film on the first day and blah, 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 and just a very simple taking a breather going, right, up until this point I've done this, and I'm in this scene now. So by then I should be really kind of shaken by then. That's the most simplest thing ever. And a good director will remind you of that. So you don't even have to worry about that now. You should be doing it yourself anyway, but a good director will be going to you and go, now remember the scene previous to this, not only that, before that as well. And it's stuff we haven't shot yet, so you have to interpret that. What would you be thinking there, That kind of stuff. That's the best, because then you can see the continuity in a performance. Gotcha. That's what I'm really starting to do now myself, being able to do. Because learning from mistakes.
And then say going from doing a lot of acting, a lot of shorts and stuff, you kind of did a lot of documentaries on the trot. What was that like? Was that a completely new experience as well?
Yeah, it was, man. Yeah, I met Kim Bartley. She's friend with Stuart Carlin, love it, writer. So I met her at I think it was a Matthew Macklin fight, but John Joe Nevin was fighting on the undercard, and she did a documentary about John Joe Nevin. And he wanted me to show up and meet him in the dressing room, which I was glad to. And me and John Joe Nevin actually boxed on the Ireland team together in the Four Nations years ago. Both of us won gold medals over there, so I met him a few times. I knew him, and so I met her afterwards, and she was just like, we talked for hours, just hours after the fight, about documentaries and all. Because I love documentaries. I watch more documentaries than I do films, And so let's see if we can do something together or whatever. And I'd mentioned to her that I wanted to do something about traveller ethnicity and get the kind of campaign up and running, because being the kind of only traveller involved in film, bring maybe that element to it, So I was going to do like videos like the Yes campaign or whatever, and get people supporting politicians or whatever and celebrities. And I mentioned that to her, and she says, look, why don't we just do a documentary about kind of modern day contemporary Ireland with travellers? And then I says, yeah, great idea, but like completely lose no idea of what we were going to do with it, really. And then what happened was Carrick Mines happened, and we ended up starting it quicker than we just started immediately. Then we were just there on the scene of the crime and kind of trying to interview people and the Glennamuck things and the racist things, and then it ended up being like a documentary that really affected a lot of people, and then the late interview with Ryan Tuppy happened before it came out, and then it'd be like for the first time travellers discrimination, racism was seen in a way where people could actually empathise, because you've seen 11 people dead and their family being completely rejected. Did the late interview, there was a lot of controversy around it, which kind of helped it, helped the whole thing, helped the documentary then.
Yeah, it was an amazing piece of work. I think a lot of people were really affected by it.
At the time too, I seen it as well, and I was like, Jesus Christ,
And then you went, was America after that?
Me and Liam McGrath already planned to do a documentary even before that.
Right.
But it was a bigger budget thing, it was BAI and all that, and 3-part series. So I was kind of just waiting on that for a long time.
Okay.
And then that came around, and we started doing that. I think we were about 9 months doing that or whatever. And then when I just finished that, or was in the edit for that, I did Cardboard then, and then I did after I did the American one then. Because like we had, from the success of I Am Traveller, we came, RT were kind of very open to what we wanted to do next. And me and Kim were adamant we wanted to go to America. You know what I mean?
For the holiday alone.
So like originally we were going to do it about Native Americans, African Americans, as we did, but also Mexicans and Muslims in America as well. And what ended up happening was, we kind of couldn't get enough connections, and also we had to go too much of one into America to the other and all that. And I just kind of made the call to Kim. I said, look, Kim, I think we should just concentrate more on these two. You know what I mean? Because both of them also have that history in America, with slavery and colonization. So I think it's kind of, and to concentrate more on two episodes, so you can delve more into rather than split up with 4 different minorities for 2 episodes. It wouldn't have worked.
You would have spread yourselves too thin, I'd imagine. Ran out of material.
So that was good though. We met that call and it ended up being great, ended up being a great journey both of us went on,
it must have been a life-changing experience.
It really was, to be honest with you. It really, really was. And like meeting, like, kind of, it was mad because some days you're walking away like in Chicago, and you're just kind of, you're like, you feel hopeless. You just feel hopeless for these people. You go like, there's no way, like I can't fathom any way at all that these people can get out of this, like this, or that this can change. Because it's systematic, you know, and it's just ingrained in people, you know. And the violence and that and the racism was just disgusting. It was on a different level, you know. And I just couldn't. But then other days you meet people like Tucson Warner, and they're just like a Malcolm X figure, and they give you hope. And it can change. You know what I mean? Like so, it was that kind of. And again with the Native Americans, First Nation people, whatever, different tribes want to be called different things. They want to be called natives. Same thing, like, you know. But even more, even less hope, because in the African American movie, they're a big enough population, 20, 25 million. A lot of their activists actually say they have a lot more. They're kind of just fucking with the census, just to let them think they have less power. Which I think that's going on in Ireland as well. The Native Americans only like a couple of million people, you know, so they have a much smaller population. But also, the African Americans always have great speakers and they're loud people and they fight for the rights, you know. But the natives are not. They're more enclosed. And
they're peaceful.
Off, you know. So I kind of had less hope. So I kind of had less hope for them, you know. But who knows? Not with Donald Trump, anyway. No hope there.
And then, so tell us a bit about Cardboard Gangsters. So this has been knocking around your head for years.
Yeah, I just had the idea. Like, I used to write when I was in school, and I used to do essays, and I loved writing. And I used to, like, you know, get me little A's and me little stars in the book, you know. I remember actually having this teacher who encouraged me to write essays, Mr. Stack. And he was really, really encouraging, like, and he loved what I was doing, loved my imagination. I used to write about the dreams I had and all, and mad zany shit and fantasy shit too, you know, mad out there. And we've only been put back in touch recently, and he was like, because when he left, he gave me like an Oxford dictionary and a book. And he said, I hope you're not going to be the use of this, you're a great student, and blah, blah. The only person he did it, he gave it to, you know. And that always stuck with me. That was like he planted a seed, you know. So when I got into acting, I decided I was going to write, you know. Because at the kind of anything I seen that was in the kind of gangland genre, I wasn't satisfied with it. But in Ireland, and coming from Darndale, and you know, I've seen and experienced a lot of stuff, and I just went, I can do something authentic here, you know. So it was just an idea in my head for like 3 years, and then I said it to Mark then, and Mark, like, I ended up writing Stalker with Mark, obviously, and I kind of had a bit more courage, and I learned a lot about the craft of writing, and even just had to structure a script. I didn't know either of that, you know. So then, so then I said I'd give it a go, and I was writing it for, I think I got a 190 page script. Within 5 days, I wrote 190 pages, you know, and just like milling into it. And I thought like it was a masterpiece, you know. So I started sending it around to people who respected it, and soon realised it wasn't a masterpiece, and it was getting destroyed. So I kind of, you know, that some people will go and do a master's in screenwriting. I'm not saying I'm that equivalent, but I got it a lot quicker because I was just destroyed by people, you know, and I learned the most, you know, the most simple little mistakes I was making. I learned them harshly, you know. And then Mark was always a supporter and always read every draft he read. Like, I was banging out 2 drafts a week and he was reading them for me, you know. And then I was going to direct it, but I was never going to be able to get the budget, so only one person I trusted was Mark, you know. And I also knew that there was things with the script that I couldn't sacrifice, me being a very self-indulgent actor. Like these big long 10-page scenes with great dialogue and all. And I couldn't, and now we can do it no problem, but it was my first kind of learning experience. Couldn't cut the fat, you know. And me and Mark talked about that, and I just said, look, Mark, and as well, he knew how to kind of look at it objectively, because I wouldn't have been able to look at it from an outsider's perspective as to what's interesting. Only I was going to more kind of internal stuff, or Mark's kind of talking about more external stuff and dialogue and character stuff as well, as to what's really interesting. And it was already there, but I didn't amplify it, and he was able to kind of bring that out. And then he'd meet me every week when he started writing it, and we'd meet like for about 6 hours, and he'd ask me a million questions. And what do you think about this? And then he'd run me by his next idea, and I'd say yeah or no or whatever, and we'd talk. And he did that for about 9 months then. And then it ended up being what it was then.
Brilliant.
Which was a tight 96-page script. We shot in 15 fucking days.
15 days?
Yeah, nearly broke our fucking backs.
Yeah. And I believe it broke all sorts of records for Irish release. And
yeah, man, it was sweet because like we didn't get back. Like, look, I'm just going to say it straight up, a party out of them already. We've passed. Film board wouldn't support us. People are literally even afraid to even say that, and that's not a criticism. But people are even afraid to say the film board didn't support us. Like, that's how much in fear people are of the film board. You know,
it's but just a fact. They didn't.
It's just they didn't support us, and they actually turned us down 2 or 3 times. And then we basically destroyed every film that they've had out this year. in the box office. I don't even give a shit about that kind of stuff, but it was kind of sweet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's a moral victory.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that happened, and then now I think it's number 1 on the DVD as well at the moment as well.
That's brilliant.
And then critically, it did great. We won we didn't win any festivals in Ireland, and it's not a fuck you to any festivals in Ireland, but most of them were supported by the film board anyway. So I can't fathom how you'd win best film at a film festival in Ireland if the film board didn't support you, especially in the feature category, because like a fuck you to the film board.
Yeah.
But we didn't win any in Ireland anyway, right? And we wanted to win one because it helps the momentum of getting into bigger festivals, you know?
Yeah.
And all the whole goal is, it's not about the award itself, it's about bettering everybody's careers, you know?
Yeah.
But we ended up going to Manchester, and I made a prediction before Manchester. I said, we're going to win something in Manchester.
Right.
They're going to love the film.
Yeah.
I said, because it's Manchester.
Yeah.
And they love the kind of social realist.
Yeah.
And it's not social realist exactly, but it's about halfway between there and a genre piece. It's halfway there, you know?
Yeah.
And we went there and we won like best film, best overall film, whatever that means, best actor for me, and then like 7 second place special mentions and that, you know.
Yeah.
And then we went to Newport. Definitely thought we were never going to win that there. Like, I didn't even think they'd understand us.
Yeah.
We won best outstanding achievement in foreign film.
That's incredible.
So yeah, and then a few other things I think we won, and Rising Star Awards came from and all this kind of thing. You know, we just a good old ball of it in the end. But it ended up being kind of a, you know, we got our second bet with it. The first bet wasn't, you know, and I was like, right, this is going to be lost, this film now, you know.
Right.
So don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, don't take no for an answer ever.
Yeah.
You know,
Keep pushing through. And will it get a release anywhere else? Maybe.
It's. I know it's on a video on demand as well.
Right.
And then I don't know if we're allowed to, well, I think it's going to be on Netflix or something. It might be on Netflix soon.
Yeah.
So what's next
on
for
television
you?
as well.
Lovely. What's next for you?
Well, I'm doing, you know, man, like what you were saying, Paul. You're starting to make your own stuff and all, and even produce and whatever. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I've already kind of set up 3 short films I'm going to produce before Christmas.
Brilliant.
And I'm going to set up my own production company. And I'm going to do that kind of stuff. And then I'm writing a few different things. I'm writing 3 different scripts, and I'm writing them at once. And it goes back to this thing of boredom. I get very bored, you know. What I do is I mark out a week for each, you know, and I'll just write for a week.
Give it a
and
break.
if anything just comes to me about a different script, I'll immediately write it down. But I'll just continue 1 week here, and I'll jump from scripts to scripts, you know. And one of them is like just it's basically essentially it's about where I grew up and a story that's never kind of been told, an Irish story that's never been told, you know, and especially from a traveller perspective, and kind of about how a culture had been deformed through assimilation, you know, and the results of assimilation, and that's the sort of bigger picture political narrative. But then the other narrative is a very personal story, and that's about loss and family loss, but how family come together, kind of strength. So it's a drama, and I'm writing it now at the moment. So hopefully one day we get that funded.
Any romantic comedies or anything?
Nah, sorry, man. I might do one of the days. You never know, just to fuck shit up, you know.
And are you mostly interested in doing your own stuff, or would you, like, you know, if a Hollywood film came along, would you be happy?
Oh man, like years ago I used to say, you know, I'm just an artist, you know. Now it'd fucking sell me arse, to be honest. Fuck, man. I don't give a fuck. Like, honestly, like, I've kind of, like, I just can't, like, I'm not going to do anything, but you know what I mean? I've just came to the conclusion, man, my acting career, you just have to be a fucking hooker. You know what I mean? Like, and I want me directing career when I get into directing. You know, I've only ever directed documentary. But when I get into narrative stuff, I'm actually waiting to hear back from the film board, but I think that's going to be a big
Aren't we all?
but a short.
Well,
but I want that to be.
back
I
from
want
the
that to
film
be the pure, you know, and the one that I wouldn't sell out, you know, because I'll just do stuff I like. And I've only like about 3 scripts that I want to do, and then I probably would never direct again, but I wanted to tell those stories,
right?
And then I have a couple of other scripts, but I don't want to direct them, you know,
right?
So the ones that's really personal, I want to kind of give to myself and you know, do them. So.
Cool. Well, we're kind of talking about rejection and stuff there. You obviously have a good attitude. You let it wash over you.
I get rejected on me, like.
Cool.
I guess you just have to you take it on the chin. Don't really use the boxing metaphor.
Yeah, man,
obviously you're going to have that initial anger when you get rejected, but you have to just
man, like, even boxing actually, as a self, boxing gave me a great thing for acting. It gave me discipline, but also gave me perspective, right? Because I used to train twice a day, 6 days a week. Coming up to competition, I trained 3 times a day. I'd eat 1 apple and 1 can of tuna for the last week. I would lose about 3 stone in about 2.5 weeks. and it was absolute torture. Like, I mean, I've never experienced nothing like it. And then I just breezed into this game, and like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give a, and an absolute torture, and then you go and you get robbed, and then it breaks your heart, and then you go in there, well, you get rejected, you don't get a film. Who gives a bollocks? It doesn't feel like the real world even to me. You know what I mean? It's like, man, I get over it.
Is that all you have?
You know what I mean? Like, I don't really give a fuck, to be honest with you. Again, bare knuckle fighting, did all that, getting punched in the face, wanting to fight for family honour, your hand is broke, and then you're going about, like, giving out about a wanky fucking audition or something. You know what I mean? Nobody cared, to be honest with you. You know, and that's the bad kind of part of the problem, is with too much fucking shit talk in this industry. And it fucking drives me mad. So much procrastination. And, you know, we should work together and we'll do something then, but we'll have a meeting then. Would you fuck off? Let's just fucking do it. Let's do it. And let's stop waiting for the fucking yes as well. I don't mind, I'll just do it. Let's go and do it. Like, it's like Francis Ford Coppola said something. He says, if you decide you're going to do it, and then you go to do it, and you go to make to do it, then you'll do it. It'll all happen. But you have to make everybody else believe that you're going to do it. And I'm 100%, that's all the law of attraction shit, I believe in. If you believe it, people believe it. And they come to you. They come in their groves. I've seen it myself. They will come. If you believe, you make them believe, and you'll inspire people, and they'll come all around you, and everybody will help you, and you'll fucking do it. That's what we need. We need more of that.
I think that's a good place to end it. Thanks a million for coming in.
Thanks for having me, lads.
You're very good.
Very good.
Thanks a million.